If you're over 40, established in your career, and quietly afraid that answering God's call is going to mean starting over and risking everything, well, you're not alone. The real problem isn't that it's too late, but you've been told the wrong thing about change. What if the real problem isn't that it's too late, but you've been told the wrong story about change? In Acts chapter 18, we're going to look at Priscilla, and she shows us a completely different way to pivot, one that doesn't erase your expertise, your experience, your income, or your credibility. And today, I want to show you how her approach can change the way you think about your next career move. We're going to start off in Acts chapter 18, verses 1 through 3. Now, Priscilla, she was often remembered for her ministry, but what is easy to miss is that how she got there. She didn't abandon her work. She didn't walk away from what she knew. She was a tent maker. She was respected, productive, skilled, and she carried her expertise into her calling. So scripture never shows us that she was starting over. And that's the point, the key that I want to talk to you about today is that we're not going to be starting over. We're going to be building forward. This is what Priscilla did. She didn't start over, she was building forward. So let me show you in Acts chapter 18 verses 1 through 3 and what is the strategy that works in your life right now. So let's go ahead and read that. It says, after these things, Paul departed from Athens and went to Corinth, and he found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, who had recently come from Italy, and his wife Priscilla, because Claudius had commanded all the Jews to depart from Rome, and he came to them. So, because he was of the same trade, he stayed with them and worked. For by occupation, they were tent makers. So Paul, he was in ministry. He was, well founded in the ministry, but he came and stayed with them. But he didn't say that they stopped working. They were what? Tent makers by trade, and they were still tent makers. So, what is the strategy for you today, not right now? Create a bridge identity. That's your focus for this particular coaching session. Not abandoning your expertise, but expanding it. This is where many women get stuck. You're not trapped because you have lack of options. You're not trapped because you've been taught that change requires loss. Sometimes that's what we've been taught. If you change, you're gonna lose. You're gonna go backwards. You might lose your home. Blah blah blah. And then it becomes a fear for us to step into that next season that God has for us. But the truth is, most career pivots after 40 are not about reinvention. They're about repackaging your transferable skills and repositioning how you create value for yourself with your next career move. You have to create the value. You're going to take with you what you already know, what you already have, what you've already built, and you're going to add that to your next career move. And now let me show you the framework for that because it's very critical for us to understand that we're not starting over, we're building forward. So what is the framework? You're going to keep your core expertise as the foundation. You're going to add the new industry language along with the credentials that you already have. Then you're going to position yourself as the original expertise that you have, plus the new field that you're going into. Now, this is something that you have to do. You have to sit down and think about that. How are you going to create value for yourself? Because this is what is going to eliminate a lot of that ageism and the problems that we have when we're going into that next career as an older person, as over 40. They're going to be looking at you like you old. I'm coming in with 20 years. No, they want to know what are you bringing to the table and how are you going to support them at this time? And this is the best way to do it. This is one of the most profitable ways that you can do it. You're not you're you're not you're not throwing yourself out or throwing away all your experience. That's what the problem is. The problem is we want to just throw away everything we did in the past and not even count that into the future. Just because you have experience in so many different areas. If you've raised kids, anything that you didn't necessarily get paid for, you still have that experience. You're still building that wisdom. You might be transferring out of ministry into a secular position or vice versa. You're still going to bring everything that you have, everything that you've done ever since you've been working in your careers, however many you've had, you're going to bring those along. And you know what? Even mistakes that you've made count because you will be able to what? Help someone else that you can identify going through a situation or a circumstance. So our life, our experiences, everything that we have is valuable and you have to see yourself that way. So you're building forward. You're building forward. You're not erasing the past. So this is going to help you. This framework is going to help you. See, you're not behind or you're not throwing it away. You got decades of wisdom, decades of skill. Everything that you have matters. Everything. Now, if you stop trying to escape your past, start leveraging your past. And you have to change your mind about that. That has to be something that we have to change our mindset about. I didn't used to be that. You're not a washed up this or that. You're taking that too with you to the next level, to the next part of your journey. Just think about it. Everything you've done your whole life, there's one little thread that seems to be consistent throughout your whole life. Whether it's teaching, whether it's cooking, whether it's whatever, whether it's nurturing people, whatever that gift that you have on the inside, God placed it in you when you were born, and and it carries all the way through our lives journey. So don't look at yourself that way. Stop doing that and leverage what you have. Build upon it. That's what she did. Now let's go down to Acts chapter 18. I just want to show you how she uh, bridged her ministry. I'm going to read verse 24, starting at verse 24. Now, now a certain Jew named Apollos, born at Alexandria, an eloquent man and mighty in the scriptures, came to Ephesus. This man had been instructed in the way of the Lord, and being fervent in spirit, he spoke and taught accurately the things of the Lord, though he only knew the baptism of John. So he was speaking, but he really only knew the baptism of John. So he began to speak boldly in the synagogue. When Aquila and Priscilla heard him, they took him aside and explained to him the way of God more accurately. So they had matured in ministry as tent makers with Paul because Paul was teaching them. So their ministry was growing. And that's so critical. Like I said, she bridged what she already had, which she didn't toss it away. So you're not going to uh, throw away your past or even not bring it up. You're going to leverage what you have, create that value for the next level or the next step that you want. Now, if it's so important for us to know these things and follow along with what God has for us in this season of our lives. So if you like help mapping out, what are your next chapter or whether that looks like, you can schedule a discovery call. It's a free discovery call with me. It's just simply some time for us a safe space for us to talk and go through where you might be stuck or where you might be thinking about going and finding out where you are in that. There's no obligation or anything like that. Just look at the link below, schedule a discovery call, and let's talk about it. It's like I said, no obligation to that. Now, once women realize that they don't need to start over, which is what we were talking about today, the next frustration usually shows up in pay, being overlooked, undervalued, or quietly underpaid. That's a big deal because we feel like we have to settle. In the next video, I want to show you why that happens in women over 40 and how women in scripture model a completely different way to command value. So I want to thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video and you have a great one.